These are the hoses that F. Atlee Dodge supplied with the kit, windshield defrost kit. These black plastic hoses, and I don't know whether they supplied them because they were cheap or because was the right thing to do. Or they're good. Generally, most aircraft stuff uses a scat tube, CA or SCAT, or SS or SCCAT or SCEET or some formula of that, with a silicone hose on it. It's got a wire spring in there to hold the shape of the wire. This is one of the pieces that was on the airplane before that was taken off, and I was flattened this out to do some experiments on it. It didn't quite work out quite the way I wanted to. I've got a new section of that in this tube right here, plus I've got some more down in the hangar that is brand new. I bought a few years ago, but I bought this tube at Stoddard's last year and brought it home with me, along with the flying wires for the horizontal stabilizers, new ones. So anyway, I've got to decide whether I want to reuse these black ones in there, or whether I want to go with new CAT tube. This stuff is a little bit stiffer than the SCAT tube, the SCAT tube. This stuff's a little bit stiffer. I don't think it's as good a quality tube. Well, this is the divider that goes in off of the windshield defrost, comes up and then goes to the two outlets for it. And this stuff, when it goes on there, it's been tightened on there for a little while, it just gets stuck on there pretty bad and won't hardly come off. But I can take some DC4, some silicone grease, and put on there, and that'll lubricate that up and keep it from sticking on there so we can get it off when we want to. I'll probably use a combination of the two. I think these were the two lines that originally went up to the windshield from this tube, and then this was the line that went from the airbox to this divider. And, they're actually in okay shape, so probably should just go ahead and reuse them. I put this black hose on the box, the air box, where it comes out through the firewall there that attaches to the carb heat air box, and then I put this Y on there, and I put one of these black hoses on there to go up to the windshield vents, and I just didn't like it. I put the both of them on actually, and they just weren't quite long enough for my taste. There just wasn't enough extra on them, so I took them off and I dug out my scat tubing, and I cut off a little longer piece. I'll cut off another piece the same length and put on here, and that way I'll have a little bit more flexibility in there when I go to put everything together. This is just a little bit too tight for my taste there, the way it was. Now you can see what I did there was I trimmed up this. There's a wire that goes on the outside of this hose, and it's covered with a little plastic wrap that goes over that, so it's doubled over. The wire is a spring wire, and you can cut it off back in there a little bit, and then take pliers and bend it in, because otherwise the spring wants to kick it out. Now it's the same thing on the scat tubing. See, I cut that wire back in there a little ways, and so I've got some flex tubing here. That makes it easier to slide on and off of these. Now, sometimes you just leave that wire on there and feed that on there, and it makes for a nice strong coupling, but it's always a hell of a time getting this fed on there with that wire on there. Let's see, let's try this end here. See, this has just been cut, and the wire on there just makes it a bear. But the wire is a spring wire, so when you cut it, it wants to kick out and open that up and spring out where it pokes you and everything else. So what you do on that is just take that pair of pliers and just bend that in just a little bit. I usually do it in a couple of spots because one just doesn't seem to do it. That way it keeps it from kicking out, but I can pull that out a little ways and cut it off, and then kick it over and then feed it back into that tube. I got this yoke made up now with a couple of new pieces of scat tube, and that's a lot more flexible than this black stuff here. A lot moves around a lot better. So I got it longer to give me more flexibility up there under the instrument panel. Oh, I'll go put that back in there on the tube in the airplane coming out of the heat box. Alright, the windshield defroster tubing is all hooked up. This is it. This is the control box for it down here. Still have to hook up the control cable, but I can't do that till I get my labels to put on, because the cable goes through the labels and then through the firewall, and the nuts come on the back of it. So anyway, the tubing comes on up through here, and it'll give me plenty. I can cut it off if I need to, but I've got plenty of flexibility here now with this tubing to come up into the windshield. That scat tubing is definitely easier to work with. I put some tie wraps on this on these crossbars here, but I'll wait to do that till I get the final location for them figured out.